Hi guys, welcome back. It's been such a long time since we've sat down together and talked and just caught up and stuff, and I've been so busy in my personal life as well as in my uni life, and I haven't really read as much as I've been wanting to, or haven't even watched as much stuff as I've been wanting to. And because of all of the busyness in my life, I've kind of just re-watched and reread a bunch of books, or at least when I was reading some books, I've opted to read self-help books or like non-fiction books instead of fiction books, because I do like the excitement, but I do like the excitement of like fiction books, but I just wanted some structure. So with that in mind, I felt like right now at the end of this month I've been kind of calming down a lot more from my busyness, and I thought it would be a great time to just sit down and review some books and some films with you guys. And the video itself is going to be focused on books. I've wanted to do this ever since I got back into reading books, because I like reviewing stuff and I like sharing my opinion of stuff, and I want to know if others feel the same way or if it's just me. And because I'm one of the only people in my family who really dissects the content I absorb, I just really wanted to take the time to just research and share my opinion so that I can get other people's, so to see if I'm not alone, basically. So yeah, I was thinking about like how I'm gonna do this, because I used to, like, my plan reviewing method if there was a method, was that I would watch something and I review it afterwards, because I didn't want like the feeling to fade away, basically, of like what I was feeling in that moment. But I feel like now with my busy life and stuff, I want to do it at the end of every month. So I do it anyway, like I review stuff anyway, because I've been bujoing and bujoing, I don't think anybody else calls it that, but I've been bullet journaling, and I've always reviewed like stuff. So like I've just recently kind of incorporated the reviewing into my bullet journaling, and yeah, I adopted new habits of journaling too, and it just made a lot more sense in my head to incorporate sort of like this habit of reviewing with you guys into my end of month habits. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but basically it's something that I've been wanting to do, and the best way in my head to do it would be to do it at the end of the month. And we're here because today is the 30th of September, so I'm going to be reviewing what I've been reading and watching, specifically in this video what I've been reading. Okay, I feel like that was like a long intro but anyway, let's get started. So the first book I read this month was Pride and Prejudice. I think I started that book a couple months back, but because it was really busy I couldn't finish it, and I only finished it this month. Pride and Prejudice is written by Jane Austen, and it's just the original I don't know if it's original, but I would call it the original enemies to lover book, and I just love it. I feel like it's okay. So the plot, if you've never read it, is just, I guess in itself, is like enemies to lover, but like from the Victorian era back in England, and it's all about like social classes and yeah, just the implications of what it meant to be a woman back then, and property. I feel like that is a big theme in the book, property. So I don't know, when I read it the first time when I was in high school, I really liked it. I think it's a very slow read. So like if you just want to get into stuff, maybe this is not the book for you. For me, I just really wanted to revisit it because I don't just love the story, but I really like Jane Austen's form of writing, considering that she was a woman in that era, in that time, who just seemed very self-aware, and the way that she writes, I don't know, just I love it a lot. And so I just kind of take that into consideration when I'm reading it. And just reading it the second time around, I especially loved it because I feel like any literature or any like person who has read Pride and Prejudice and enjoyed it eventually loves Mr. Darcy. And I felt like there's always like this pressing, nagging thought from others that you must be some sort of messed up if you like Mr. Darcy. And I was kind of like thinking that throughout reading the book. I was like, whoa, I know I like him, but I don't know why I like him so. And I was just like really examining that part of my consciousness while I was reading it. And I found out that I feel like it's because, at least in this approach of enemies to lovers, they weren't ever really enemies. It was just like social differences and social class hierarchies that kept them separate, which was, well, was never acceptable, but it was just expected of them at the time. And I don't know, it's like being rooted in your ideals, but also the fact that Mr. Darcy went out of his way to possibly ruin his image, you know, to be with her. I guess like his words were awful to her, but I talk more about like his actions. I feel like I'm the sort of person that I'm always like trying to read between the lines when I'm talking to people, which is awful because sometimes people just mean what they say. But in this book, Mr. Darcy really went out of his way to build a world where he was showing his love and devotion and affection for Elizabeth, wow, I forgot her name, in actions, you know. And I just really like that. And what really did it for me, I think this time around, was just at the end of the book when he's saying like, you surely must know that I did all of this for you, you know. And he's, I think the first time around when he proposes, spoiler, I'm just like, if you haven't read it, then I don't know. Anyway, the first time around when he proposes, he's like very sure of himself that like he's gonna get a yes, and you know that this is like a burden and stuff. But the second time around, he's humbled himself and he's like, I did it all for you, but I wasn't like expecting anything back. But if you change your mind, like if my actions have shown how much I really love you, then please take me. And you know, just like that humbleness, just I don't know, I just really love Darcy is basically what I'm saying. So that was the first book I read, and it was great because there was nothing new. I was just reading it through a whole new lens, and I examined my subconscious and found out that I am the kind of woman who likes men who back up their words or do the right thing, basically. And then the second book I read, well, I finished reading because I also have had this book for a very long time, is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And okay, this is a nonfiction book, and it's basically just like a guide on how to build a healthier habit life, and sort of just to start building the life and persona that you want to be. So basically it kind of breaks down life in habits, because life is repeated actions that you do every day, and how to make sure that you're not making bad habits that will eventually accumulate into bad or seriously injuring consequences for yourself. So yeah, it was a really interesting read. I think there were a lot of like case studies put forward in each chapter to kind of exemplify exactly what he meant by how habits affect you in the long run. Because yeah, I feel like one of the key elements that I took out of this book was that every single person does things every time, you know, and sometimes you feel like this one insignificant action will not affect you because you just don't feel it in the moment. But if you keep on doing insignificant actions every day, they will accumulate to be insignificantly damaging for you in the future, you know. I don't know if that made any sense, but yeah, I really liked it. It was a good read, and there are some exercises that he suggests to do in each chapter, and I did them. I feel like some of them I had already incorporated in my life before that because of my bullet journaling, which I found out that if you have a habit tracker in your journaling habits, that is really good because you're able to truly like visualize and see what you've achieved and not achieved each month, which allows you to see what actual person you are, you know, because I want to think that I'm the kind of person that I'm reading or that I'm working out or whatever, but it isn't until you truly see all of the habits accumulated that you perceive things. So yeah, it was a really interesting read. I really liked it, and if you're trying to build a whole new lifestyle, I suggest that you get on that. And then I started reading like towards the beginning to the middle. It was like a really quick read of the month. I started reading the new Camelot Trilogy. I read it because I think I found a review for the second book on TikTok, and I was like, okay, I really want to read this because it sounds super interesting. So basically the new Camelot Trilogy is focused on these three characters, the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, and the wife of the President of the United States. And it's a fiction book, because if it was non-fiction I feel like anyway, it's a fiction book and fiction books, and it's written by Simone, and it is spicy to say the least. Yeah, spicy. I don't know, like it's a weird series. I have no way to explain the plot to you because I feel like the plot in itself is just that it's the life of these three political members and their sexual endeavors, and yeah, I don't know, you just have to read it. Was it interesting? No. I felt like I only read the last two books because I was really angry about the first one. So like I started reading the first one and it was a very slow read. I felt like it took way too long, like I think past the middle of the book, for me to be like really invested in it. So I mean, I read it and I was like, okay, I'm waiting for like exciting shit to happen, and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting, and I got to the middle of the book, and then I felt like some of the decisions she made as a strong leading woman that she was presented in the first few chapters just were completely backed away. I don't know, I felt like there was no logic to her actions, but I don't know, I have no idea. I feel like I'm a very particular sort of person, so I like expect certain actions and ideals to be backed up even in the bedroom, but that wasn't the case. So I don't know, yeah, it just was weird. Like I was really angry about the first book, and I was like, I can't believe, like I feel like I was in shock, to say the least, about like the first book and how it ended. So then I was like, okay, the review I watched was on the second book, so I started reading the second book. And oh yeah, just quickly explaining, the first book is from the wife's president's point of view, then the second one is from the vice president's point of view, and the last one is from the president's point of view. So like, I don't know why, but it made me even angrier to read the second book because it was better. It was so much more interesting. I felt like the author, Sarah Simone, just doesn't know how to write for my liking from a woman's point of view. So reading the second one, I was like, I'm actually really invested. It's really interesting. I really like what is being said about this relationship. It's very mature. I really mature in all the ways, I guess. And I really liked it, and I was like, I just can't believe I read the first one. I just thought it was really, I don't know, I got really angry about like how much better it was reading the second book. So then I just like, okay, I'm gonna finish this third book. And the third book I felt like was a roller coaster. It was really good from the male perspective of that book, but then some other stuff came in that if you've ever read or have any experience with whole King Arthur whole thing, kind of can imagine. It just was really weird, and I don't know, it left me feeling empty. I don't know if that's the right word. I just didn't know how to feel when I ended the books, especially the ending. I was like, I get it and I don't get it. Yeah, I don't know. If you've read the new Camelot Trilogy, please let me know. And let me know what your opinion was about it. Specifically, let me know what you thought about the last book. Because I don't know how I feel about the last book, is basically what I'm saying. And I just want to know what other people think, if they think anything. Yeah, that's my opinion of the new Camelot Trilogy by Sarah Simone. I've been reading the Harry Potter books with my mom and my sister. I mean, I read them every year, but this time, last year was my sister. Like, I was reading it with her, and this year it's with my mom. And it's the first time my mom was reading it, and it was the first time my sister was reading the books last year. And it's just very exciting, because I love Harry Potter. I just feel like it's like the best universe ever. I just love the characters in the books so much more than I love them in like the film. I feel like my basis of love for Harry Potter is really from the books, and then it extends into the films, specifically like the Weasley family. I just freaking love them. And we are currently reading Order of the Phoenix, which meant that this month we finish the Triwizard Tournament. And yeah, I mean, if you haven't read or watched Harry Potter, it is basically about a kid named Harry Potter who is basically like the chosen one, like a prophecy child who has to save the world, more specifically like the magical world that he is a part of, from tyrants basically. And it's like a good read. I just really like it. I feel like it teaches so much about loyalty and friendship, and Harry Potter is just honestly, I feel like he's just a bad kid, like a bad character. He's not thankful enough. Flaws in the writing system of J.K. Rowling. But anyway, I just really like them, and if you see beyond the main character and beyond the one book, the one character that the whole book series is based on, I feel like you can learn so much. And also to learn not to see characters through J.K. Rowling's perspective or the author's perspective. I feel like if you see things more in depth, then you get to enjoy it more. It's basically what I'm saying. But yeah, I really love it, and recommend you read it. Oh, and then I went out with my sister's friends to the city center, and they had a book fair, and I've been wanting to buy a book, like a solid book, for a while, like a published book for a while, because I've been reading all of these books like online, which is fine because global warming and all of that. But I really wanted like a solid book, so I went out, and there were a bunch of books and I didn't know what to choose, but I had a bunch of like stuff I wanted to buy or read on my to read list, and the book of Adam Silvera, they both die at the end, like was there, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy it. I was very reluctant to buy it because all the reviews of it were like, you're gonna be crushed and it's a good read, but you're gonna feel emotionally destroyed by the end. So basically the title kind of says it all. It's about this future world in which everyone kind of is told about their last day on Earth. So there's this whole new system called, I think it's sudden death because I read it in Spanish, but basically they call you and they tell you today's your last day. Enjoy it, you know. And they don't tell you like how you're gonna die or anything. And there's this app where you can go in and kind of find people to spend the day with, knowing that it's gonna be your last day. And these two characters who are dying, sounds weird because they're not dying, they're just gonna die that day basically. Rufus and Mateo are like together, and yeah, man. Okay, I'm gonna like begin with my overall opinion and then I'm kind of dissecting it. So I thought it was a great read. I didn't feel sad at all. I enjoyed it a lot, and the ending to me had so much meaning. And I don't know if I'm like one of the only people that feels this way, but I just really liked the ending, and I thought it was a delicacy. I don't know if that's the right way to pronounce it, but I thought it was like a nice touch of Adam Silvera to give this structure of a like romance story to us, because I feel in general that when we are talking about like romance and death, whether that be The Fault in Our Stars or something similar, you kind of advance through stuff very like slowly and cautiously and kind of afraid. But in this reading, I felt like there was no point for that, because obviously it's the last day, so it's like a quick read of a book because it is a day, you know. So I thoroughly enjoyed the way that the relationship evolved and how the characters grew, but more specifically, I really enjoyed the pace at which things were happening. To me, it felt like, I don't know if I would have done the same things as they had done, but I just felt that the decisions they made were competent and they made sense. And knowing what they knew about like dying, it was logical. I don't know. I just really liked it. I want to read it again, not straight away, because I'm kind of still in that high of like the book. I just feel like it was a great book. I didn't feel sad at all for any of them, because I feel like in my head I am not afraid of death. I don't know. I feel like that everybody has their own journey and perspective on death and how they feel about it. But for me, I just don't fear it. So reading the book, I was like with that whole idea of like, okay, if they are afraid, they're probably going to make some reckless decisions, but just the way in which they reacted to the circumstances and the way the book flowed, I really loved it. And I can't wait for it to be adapted into a film and maybe even a series. Like I was thinking like they could build a whole universe of that, and it would be mega interesting for me. I don't know. I just really liked it. Yeah, and I feel like you should read it if you haven't. Let me know if you've read it, if you feel anything sort of like how I felt or what your opinion was, and yeah, let me know. And the last book I read this month was Barbarian Hope by Ruby Dixon. This is the 11th book in the Ice Planet Barbarian series, and I've been just binging on those since I started reading Ice Planet Barbarian. Was this book good? No, I feel like there's others that have been better. It was entertaining. I mean, it delivered. I felt like I'm only reading these non-entertaining books to advance in the plot, which is almost non-existent in the other books. But this one was like a bit of a deeper perspective on the Saki people, their customs, and adapting into the new village after the earthquake. If you don't know what the Ice Planet Barbarian series is, it's basically just these girls who are abducted by aliens, and their alien ship is stranded in this ice planet, and these girls were gonna be sold by these aliens into slavery in other planets. But when they are stranded, they find the native people of that ice planet, who are called the Saki, and basically to survive in that planet, because it's really freaking cold, you have to have like this symbiote thing warm like in your heart that helps you heal faster. It's sort of like a superpower thing, but also one of the side effects, if you want to call it that, is that it sort of chooses who you're gonna mate with for life. And yeah, it's sort of like like the first books were all of these girls' experiences into coming into this world, because obviously in their head they can't go back home because they're miles and miles of light years away from their home, and like they can't go back to Earth, and they either stay in that ship and become slaves to the bad aliens, or they go out of the ship and they become mated possibly to the Saki there, because the only way they can stay is if they take in the symbiote, and all of that seemed really freaking interesting to me, let me tell you. And just the description of the Ice Planet Barbarians, the Saki, mega interesting, mega interesting. I feel like it touched a nerve of stuff that I didn't even know I liked. So yeah. And barbarians, basically because, well, they are the natives of there, but they don't have technology, so everything's kind of like in the Stone Age. And yeah, it's an interesting read. And the book that I finished, it sort of happens after there's this big earthquake, which apparently they have no idea what it was, but the girls do. Really interesting. And yeah, I was reading that. I'm probably gonna read the next book next month because I just want to know how stuff advances. And yep, that's pretty much it. That's all I've read this month. If you read any of the books that I talked about, please let me know what your opinion of them have been. If you have any suggestions about any book that I should read, let me know. I don't know when I'll read it because my book of to read books is enormous. But I definitely want to get back into reading, tracking my reading progress, and just sharing my opinions with you guys. I love reading. I feel like it's the best hobby ever. And yeah, I want to know what you've been doing, what you've been up to. I will make another video reviewing films that I've watched this month and series I've watched this month in general, which haven't been a lot compared to my previous life before the pandemic. But anyway, let me know what you've been doing. And yeah, that is all. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a very, very lovely time in the rest of your day, or a very lovely day if you're starting your day. And I'll see you soon. Bye.